reason why that's so important, I feel like it's not what you achieve, it's that legacy that you leave behind, how you inspire people, integrity, courage, and that's what I lead with. And I want to work with other founders and have those partnerships where I see that. Otherwise, it's a no-go for me. I don't care how much money the gig is. I'm not interested.
So you're looking at the characteristics of the individual.
Exactly. Leadership. Yeah,
Okay, great.
definitely.
All right, so welcome back. Our next guest, I think you're really going to enjoy this conversation. If you value legacy, if you value values, if you value financial strategy, or any of those things, I think you're going to really, really enjoy today's conversation. So make sure you have a notebook and a pen, because they may drop a couple of tips. Anyway, with that being said, we have CEO and founder of Sapphire CFO Solutions.
Yes.
Heather Hall, we'll introduce her here in a second or allow you to be connected with her, but we're super excited and very grateful for Heather Hall to be joining us today at the L3 studio.
What's up, y'all? As you already know, like, love, share, subscribe. Tell us what you like. Tell us what you don't like, because at the end of the day, we're just going to do whatever we want, and nobody wants that. So let's get it started.
Yes. So Heather Hall, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for making the drive.
Yes.
You bet. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Really appreciate the opportunity.
Yes. So I was looking at, I was going to say this in the opening, but I want to share it now. So on your website, it says, as part of under our story, it says Sapphire was founded on a simple belief. Financial strategy isn't just support, it's leverage.
Yes.
And so can you share a little bit around that framework and, what inspired you to start Sapphire CFO Solutions?
Sure, you bet. So I started my career almost about 30 years ago, dating myself a little here. But I started off in finance. I just love it. I've always really been drawn to it. But I did auditing for a bit. At the time, it was one of the big six. It was Coopers and Lybrand, now PwC. Realized I didn't want to do that, but wanted to stay in the finance field. So I kind of set my sights on becoming a CFO. So I finally got there. And the company that I was working with at the time, they had some management changes. I ended up getting laid off, and I just thought about, gosh, what do I want to do? And the one thing that I really hadn't done, I've worked for the big public companies. I had worked for small private, but I had never done a startup.
Right.
So I fortunately was introduced to these guys. They were creating the first cloud native platform to buy and sell bonds. So it was a fintech company.
Okay. Nice.
So that was back in 2016. So I co-founded that company. We had it was a lot of fun, a lot of work, but tons of fun. Still just have amazing relationships with the folks, I met on that journey. But we had a successful merger back in 21. And then, when those things happen, you kind of get phased out of your job.
Yeah.
So it was really at that time, having worked at that startup, building it from the ground up, because when I joined, it was just an idea.
Yeah.
I mean, that was it.
That's cool.
So I built the whole finance infrastructure. I do have a background in HR, so I built out the HR piece of it as well. And then also just started networking with other founders. And so what I really it was just like this light bulb went off, in that a lot of founders, they have the product down, they have the vision, but they really lack the financial roadmap. They lack that, financial infrastructure.
Yeah.
And I think that folks see finance as more of a compliance and a reporting function, really kind of look at it in the review mirror. And then when they realize, oh gosh, we need to get someone in here because we're either doing a raise, we're talking to investors, prepping for an exit or what have you. I don't want to say that it's too late, but you're kind of chasing your tail at that point.
10 times more work.
100%, 100%. So anyway, back to after that merger, I did end up going to serve as the chief administrative officer of the finance division at the new firm, but then eventually got phased out, as I was saying. So having this idea in the back of my mind of, hey, this is a pain point for founders, I decided to launch Sapphire CFO Solutions. And that's really, again, you're moving away from it being this support function, right? Reporting compliance to really having it serve as strategic leverage to get you to your next step.
Right.
I just view finance as this connective tissue with the whole organization, right? It's you don't work in a silo. You really have to be able to understand the sales function, product, all the different groups and teams, and be able to relate, to interact. I mean, that's how you build trust across the org, and then get them to their next step.
Gotcha. Yeah. So was there any moment in your life, whether as a young teenager or early adult, that really sparked your interest to, dive headfirst into finance?
Yeah. So a couple.
I grew up with a mom in finance, so I know a lot of people are like, "Oh, it's not the most sexiest thing in the world."
So yeah. So I lost my father at a really young age, and so my grandfather on my mom's side was really a role model for me, and he was a mortgage broker, and I used to go into his office with him, and I liked, being this mini, businesswoman. So that kind of started it. And when I went to college, I definitely wanted to focus on business. But I went to Princeton, and at the time, they did not have a business program. It was engineering or the humanities, liberal arts. So I did anthropology, which I actually loved, and I think it brings just a lot of context in whatever situation, right, that you're in. So it was a nice base for me there. And interestingly enough, the gentleman who interviewed me for Princeton, we kept in touch, and he offered me an internship. He was a stockbroker, his own firm. So I had a summer internship between my sophomore, junior year, because I was thinking law school, and then that totally changed my mind. I really liked him, and a lot of respect. His name is Pat Ryan. Great guy. In fact, he just got back in touch with me, and we had been out of touch for 25 years.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So really amazing. But he was a big inspiration. So it was really at that juncture I said, oh no, I want to go to business school. And I ended up, I'm laughing because I was talking with one of my mom's friends. She owned these Mexican restaurants. We're out to lunch. This is my senior year in college. What do you want to do? I'm thinking business school. She goes, Heather, you should do accounting. My daughter, she works for E&Y. She loves it. She makes lots of money, which isn't what it's about. But when you're a senior, right? I'm looking at that and say, well, gosh, I was always really good at math, so I'm just going to go get my master's of science in accounting. And I have to be honest, I didn't love it. I had to take the core MBA program because I had no business classes, no business background, and I loved the MBA program, but the accounting was my least favorite.
Yeah.
But I don't quit. I just don't believe in that. So I stuck with it, and just really glad I did, because it really is a basis for all of business. You need to know the basics. I mentor college students, and young men, young women, and I always say it's great to just get that base in accounting. Just take that financial accounting course.
Nice.
Right? Just
I agree.
just helpful.
I mean, I grew up, gluing receipts to pieces of paper based off numerical date, right?
Yeah.
And so my mom used to work for Cal Berkeley, and she'd pay me in high school, and when I think since 8 years old, she'd be like, hey, I'll pay you, $5, $10 an hour, glue these receipts, do it in order, whatever. And so I got a good baseline growing up as far as well, what are the numbers? Like, how much does it cost, and things of that nature. And I can say that's helped us a lot in the business because I have that baseline, right? Like, we may be small, but like our books are in order. Like,
Yes.
we have reconciliations done after every,
Yes.
every 30 days and things like that. And for a small business, that's not common. Normally, that's
Agree.
like, oh, we'll get to it when we figure it out.
100% agree. Or, I've even seen some of the startups I've been working with. Some of them are almost like 10-year-old startups,
they've been
but
working at it.
holy cow, it's just things just aren't in order, right?
Right.
And I'm always surprised. I just am always surprised because they're doing well, right? But you can
Like, how much better could you do these things?
100%. Like you couldn't be here, you know. It's just almost like a hindrance to not get it dialed in.
From your perspective, when you created that partnership, right? Like, how do you evaluate that? Like, I think a lot of people, they want to create partnerships, strategic partnerships, become potentially founders for people with ideas. Like, how did you gauge that with your experience, and then decide, okay, this is something that I want to give my energy to?
Well, I think I've done really well in the corporate world and the startup world, but I want to make money for myself.
Of course.
Like I want to, I want to do this for myself, and I just find that I can add a lot of value, with these partnerships that I'm making because of my breadth of experience. I've had multiple different C-level roles aside from that CFO role, and I feel like I understand business, and it feels really good to help people. That's kind of just always been in my nature,
Right.
and so it feels good. It's just it's really nice to help people, and obviously get paid for it, but it's nice to have a purpose like that. And I had lunch. One of my clients is in the cannabis industry, but it's data. It's data as a service across the whole cannabis ecosystem. So they were out. They're back east, but they were in town for the holidays, spending some time with their family up in Healdsburg. So I met the CEO for coffee, and he just kept thanking me for everything that I've done, and it's just a mutual mutual respect and thankfulness, and I mean it brings a lot of purpose. I would say.
How did you evaluate it though? So like what made you say yes?
To
that partnership.
Sapphire or
No,
to the
to
particular
partnership.
client?
To the particular partnership
Sure.
for the company that you
Sure.
ended up exiting.
To me, I mean, there has to be integrity and values.
Okay.
That's it for me. Unfortunately, I've worked in companies where it's lacking.
Yeah.
And or with key leaders, and the reason why that's so important, I feel like it's not, what you achieve. It's that legacy that you leave behind, how you inspire people, integrity, courage. And that's what I lead with. And I want to work with other founders and have those partnerships where I see that. Otherwise, it's a no-go for me. I don't care how much money the gig is. I'm not interested.
Makes sense.
So you're looking at the characteristics of the individual.
Exactly. Yeah, and leadership. Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely.
Good.
Definitely.
I want to ask, earlier you had mentioned about like you don't quit, right? And so one of the things that, particularly me, I'm big on is attitude.
Yes.
And so the question that I have is, how did you develop an attitude of that? How did you develop a no quit attitude?
Sure. So I lost my father when I was 4.5. He was his name was Captain Harley H. Hall. He was a Navy fighter pilot. He was actually lead flyer of the Blue Angels in 71. And he was the last POW shot down like an hour before the ceasefire. January 27th, 73. He was seen captured, and then he was just never returned. And so I lived a lot of my life like he was a role model to me, but I didn't know him that well. My mom said I was like his shadow. He was everything. I didn't care at all about my mom. Now I'm like, oh my gosh, Mom, I'm so sorry.
Right.
Obviously, I don't remember. But living with his legacy, and it was really more through, photographs, stories, talking to people who he inspired, and that's how he lived his life. And so I really wanted to emulate that. And I just have always had a really strong drive, and have always, wanted to be the best and make him proud of me, and, be strength for my mom, be a rock for her. So I think it was through that experience, truly. And I think some innate qualities, right? I think it's a little bit of both, but I've just always been driven, very focused. And yeah, it's strange because I don't know that I, thinking back on it, I don't know that I learned that from my mom, really, but of just, you gotta stick with it. And also, giving up, it just doesn't feel good. I really sure there are probably circumstances and things like that where that happens, but things that I'm in 100%. And so, yeah, it doesn't feel good giving up. And you're a stronger person, right? Coming out the other side if you stick with something.
Right.
I mean, I still, accounting, it's not the sexiest, right? But it just has allowed me to. It's been like a springboard for me, and it allowed me to accomplish so much more and be so much more through that lens.
No, that's good. Thank you for sharing. It was a book I read years and years ago, and two of the things that I took away from it that I try to instill daily is your attitude and effort. Those are two things that you can always control.
Yes.
Regardless of the outcome, or regardless of the situation, those are two things that you can always control. And so, anyway, thank you for sharing.
Yes, you bet. Appreciate that. You bet.
So as you started Sapphire, what were some of maybe your initial hurdles?
So really going out on your own.
Yeah, that's a vibe.
Right? For sure. And so just not having that security.
Yeah.
I had recently moved as well. I lived in San Francisco for 29 years, and I had just moved up to Sonoma County. I decided to rent my house in the city versus selling it. So, trying to balance that, have great couple, that are renting it. But needless to say, money was really tight. So launching a business, and then really just the lead gen. I feel like I'm really good with people, but yeah, just getting the leads, getting the clients. And I found most of my clients have come through referrals.
Yeah.
I mean, I've mainly been like a referral based business, and haven't spent a ton of time and effort into lead gen, marketing, things like that. And it's worked out well for me so far. But yeah, just thinking, oh my gosh, I've got this brand new house. And yeah, it's all on me. Yeah, for sure. I'm sure you guys can relate.
Absolutely.
What sparked the motivation for the move? Because that's a big move.
It is.
I lived in the Bay my whole life.
Yeah.
San Francisco to Sonoma. That's a complete culture
shift. Yeah. So this is actually a fun story, I think. So in 2008, that was the job where it was my first CFO role. It was a private registered investment advisor. So I met this gentleman. His name is Reiner. He was our chief investment officer. So he came on board a couple months after I joined. We became really, really close, stayed in contact. He and his wife, Michelle, moved up to Kenwood, which is the next town over from where I'm at. It's in Sonoma County. Yeah. I'm in Glen Ellen. And so Reiner he moved out of kind of the corporate world, and He's German. He really knows his wines. Their wine cellar is just incredible. So he's working at a winery just for fun, but he'd work on the weekends.
Yeah.
So Michelle would say, "Hey, come on up." So they have 2 dogs. I have 2 dogs. So I come up maybe on a Friday, Saturday. We do sleepover dinners. Michelle and I go play, and so I noticed that when I was visiting them, I never really wanted to leave on Sundays. And so I'd stay one more night and I'd get up at like 4 a.m., right?
Man, truck
to
back.
drive to the city. But Sonoma just has such a lovely vibe. There's just something about it. So I definitely knew that I wanted to retire in Sonoma, come a ways off from that goal. But there was this one weekend I came up, Reiner's working. Michelle and I, we always would go out for Mexican food because we both love it. The Mexican food up here is just phenomenal.
Yeah.
So we're having Mexican food. This is when the lottery is in the billions. Now,
Okay,
I didn't win, but this was a couple years ago. And she said, "Heather, we can't forget to get our lottery tickets." I'm like, "Oh, totally." She's like, "What would you do with all that money?" I'm like, "Oh, I'd finally buy my second home here."
Yeah.
What's property going for anyway? She goes, "Oh, let me check." So she didn't answer the question. She got sidetracked because she said, oh my gosh, there's 2 brand new construction open homes in Glen Ellen. Let's go look tomorrow. It was a Sunday. I'm like, awesome. Let's
Speed
do
of
it.
execution.
There you go. I like it.
So I'm not like, I'm a little spontaneous, but probably a little more planned. Just give it that backdrop. So we go look at these homes, looked at the first one, it was nice. We go to the second one. I literally walking up to that house, I just felt this energy. Walked up the stairs, opened the front door, didn't even tour it. And I looked back at Michelle and I said, "I'm selling my house." Okay. Michelle is a high net worth money manager. She didn't even say a word because she got really stressed out about it more than me. And then it was it. And so, yeah, that's typically, obviously it's in my nature because it happened, but pretty big decision. It just felt right. And I've just been so happy there. And the beautiful thing, so my mom at the time, I think she's 82. She's feisty Italian. She has more energy than I do. She comes to visit. She wants to, go out and do more. I'm content sitting home with my dogs. And so I always said, "Hey, Mom, I'm always going to take care of you, right? Always." So she said, "Well, I'll be ready to move when I'm 85. So her first visit up, she's eyeing the backyard. She's talking about her casita that we're going to build when it's time, etc. Well, there happened to be that whole side of the street that I live on. It had all burned down in the 2017 fires. So my house was new. There was a big empty lot next door, and then my neighbor's house. So I moved in September. My neighbors invited me to their house for Christmas cocktails. It was a little party, and I overheard some other neighbors saying that the gentleman that owned that empty lot was looking to sell it. So I talked to my mom. I said, "Hey, Mom, we should see if we can buy this land because it just would be a much better investment than digging into the hillside."
Yeah.
And so we ended up getting the land.
Oh, nice.
And so she's like, "I'm not ready to move, honey." And I said, "I know, but we need to start now because it takes a while." We literally, we started right away. I actually became good friends with the gentleman I bought my house from.
Okay.
And so he's project managing the build, and we have the same architect and the same builder. So we just got the permit. Took a long time.
Yeah.
Her house will be ready in June.
Okay.
Wow.
And guess what? She'll be 85 in July.
Wow.
So it
Lovely birthday.
worked out
Nice.
really well. So that's been really a beautiful thing,
Yeah.
as well. Like I said, just starting my business. It's just I just love it up here. It's so beautiful. I feel like it's really conducive. You slow down.
Yeah.
Can really tap into one's creativity. etc. So yeah, that's the story. I never thought I'd leave San Francisco, but I think I probably was ready. I just didn't know it.
So you had mentioned about retirement. I mean, there was like 15 questions that popped up in my head that I want to ask, but like you had mentioned retirement. So as someone that has a finance background, how do you establish what your retirement looks like? Like, you know, as far as when you're crafting that plan, you know, okay, that's my target. That's what I'm shooting for. Like, you know, can you walk us through that?
Especially as a
share?
business owner, like how should they be thinking about that?
Sure. So, I mean, for me, I'm look at, you know, kind of my spend, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously add on a buffer to that. You know, I have long-term care insurance, which I think is really important.
Yes.
It's really, a lot of people don't think about it,
Yeah.
but it's huge. It is so expensive. And so when you're young, you know, and you're paying out the premiums, I mean, it's not that much. It's going to be a lot less expensive versus, you know, as you get older, it becomes more and more expensive.
Correct.
So I know I've got that. And then, you know, what do I want to do when I retire? How much is that going to cost? And then it's enabled me to arrive right at a number. I will say, like, I don't think I'll ever stop working because I enjoy it. I'll just kind of scale down a little bit.
Yeah.
But I think I'll always have clients that I can work with. I just would, you know, obviously want more flexibility in my schedule because I like working. I've always liked working. I've been working since I was 14. And I enjoy it. I just don't want to do, you know, the 70, 80 hour weeks anymore. Right.
Well, it's purpose based.
Exactly.
Like I think I tell my wife all the time is, and we've talked about it, is I'll probably never stop working, but there's a point where I don't have to work. Like I'll still do stuff because that's just in my nature, but I don't want to say I have to do this because I need the dollars.
Exactly.
It's more, I'm doing this because I enjoy it.
Yes.
And it'll make me some extra money, cool. But at the end of the day, like it's not a necessity.
Yes, I have a friend. He's been really successful with his businesses. He doesn't need to work. I think he just turned 40. But he says he likes it because it's his fun money.
Yeah.
That's what he calls it, his fun money.
Yeah, I can dig it.
Yes. That's awesome. So from, I mean, fintech founder, CEO, you're also a board member.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So I've been on a couple different boards. I've been on some nonprofit boards. I love animals. I was, when I lived in San Francisco, I was on the Friends of San Francisco Animal Care and Control. I was on their board. Now I'm on a for-profit board. It is a company that is focused on ESG consulting. They do consulting for board members. It's my friend Chad, who I've known, gosh, I think we're coming up on like 30 years. Wow. Just really great guy. He's very purpose driven. He's been doing the ESG since before it, you know.
What's ESG?
Environmental, social governance.
Okay.
So he's been doing that before it became like in vogue, right? Gotcha. Now it seems like kind of the hot thing to do, the green businesses and whatnot. Okay. But he does board consulting. His company's called Third Economy, and they just spun off a fintech company called Via Lab, where they're focused on developing a rating system on companies, not specific to companies in that space, but so that, you know, if you're interested in a company's, you know, values, really, not that a company that isn't focused on ESG has no values, but if that value is important to you, right, a company that really adheres to those principles, then when you're investing in a company, you want to evaluate the company in according to those metrics. And so that's what his fintech spinoff does, is it's really kind of a rating system. So they're just getting that launched. That's been a ton of fun. And that's really kind of the main company that I'm on the board of right now.
Nice.
Just allow between that and then my own business. I don't want to stretch myself too thin.
Yes.
Well, so earlier when you said you were talking, when you bought your house in Sonoma and you walked in the house, you're like, oh, I'm doing this. You know, one of the things when we talk to a lot of people, we say like, oh, you know, they'll say, oh, I'm gonna do this in 5 years, or I'm gonna do this in 10 years. And so have you ever read the book, The Science of Scaling?
No, I have not.
Okay. So we just read it as a company, and it was really insightful because it takes examples like that. Like, hey, you know, for a company, we want to do 10 million in 5 years. It's like, great. What would require of you to do 10 million in 2? And it really kind of makes the people sit back, right? Instead of giving themselves this long runway, when in reality it's like, well, what are the things you could do now to potentially hit that? And those hard conversations, you know, that you have to have with your staff, with your clients. What's the floor that you now have to raise, the standard and things of that nature.
You got to have a plan.
You got to have a plan, right?
Plan.
And so have you ever had those conversations with some of the companies where you're just like, hey, I know we're trying to make it like realistic, but at some point we're just pushing it off?
Well, I'll ask, you know, I definitely ask, you know, what's their goal, and really try to ask like a lot of follow-up questions, a lot of leading questions, like why?
Yeah.
And then in particular, well, how are you going to get there?
Correct.
And it's amazing how many folks don't have
A plan.
Right. I mean, in their head they do. Right. This goes back to what I was saying earlier about these founders. They have that vision. They have the product down. But you do need a plan with numbers on it to get you where you want to be.
Right.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's you're lucky if it happens.
Yeah.
Right. But absolutely, I don't necessarily push and say, you know, well, why not 10 million? Because I'm asking, okay, why that number?
Yeah.
And then I wait and see, you know, what the response is, and then we have a conversation around it. But yeah, there's a lot of work that goes into to getting there, and you can do it. You just you have to have that plan.
Yeah.
And like you said, the hard conversations if you're missing targets and whatnot, well, like, well, what are we going to do to get back on track?
Yeah.
And some are, you know, difficult.
Yeah.
Especially when it involves like reducing headcount, or, you know, in some departments and others not, and et cetera.
Yeah. So how are you? So you're meeting with your founders and other CEOs. I'm assuming you do like an assessment with them, like an initial assessment.
Yes.
And so once you do that initial assessment, how are you able to create specific strategies that align up with their values and their ultimate goals? Like, let's say there's a business that you're working with, they're using their financial reports as, you know, just kind of throwing them out there versus like what you were saying earlier, versus using it as a roadmap to get to the end goal of what they want to get to. So from assessment to strategy, how are you able to create that strategy to then bring it to the table? Sure.
That's a great question. So, you know, the first thing I do, I want to look over all their financial reports, et cetera. It's really like doing an audit of the business, but that involves, you know, more than just looking at the books. It's meeting with the strategic business partners within the organization. So meeting the head of product, meeting the head of sales, you know, kind of asking the same question of each of those people to see if it's a cohesive story, or if it's
familiar.
Yeah, I was just thinking that. Yes,
right, or if it's different, because you know things get lost in translation, and so you definitely need everybody to be on the same page, right? Rowing in the same boat towards that end goal. So it's really that audit. So it's both qualitative and quantitative, and then sitting back down again, discussing findings, and then ensuring we're all on the same page, you know, getting everybody together. And the CEO of the company that I'm working with typically does this. But then, it's really, I see my role is, maintaining that consistency, then moving forward, making sure that everyone's aligned with the strategy that we're pursuing. You do the check-ins, and, you want folks to be accountable as well. Like everyone needs to be accountable to their numbers.
Right. Be accountable to the numbers.
Do you find
Exactly.
So Kevin O'Leary is
Yes,
Mr.
yes,
Wonderful.
yes.
I like him. And so, but I watched a video where he's talking about Shark Tank, and he's like, if I ask a business owner, whoever's in front of us, these 3 metrics, and they don't know them, it's pretty much like an automatic no for me. And so, do you have any particular metrics initially when you go into a business that's like, hey, what's this, and this? And if they don't know them, you're like, all right, well, we really got some work ahead of us, And I know for him, it was like customer acquisition costs, overhead, things of that nature.
So not specifically. I mean, so I think with Kevin, that it's more a SaaS business.
Yeah.
Let's put it this way. If I like to have a general conversation, and I can really kind of
Pick up.
I can kind of gauge whether they're the real deal or not.
Right.
And then I'm not going to take on that client because I'm generalizing, but typically I know like the data, it's going to be a mess. There's not a single source of truth. And again, asking those same questions to different folks, on the management team, I can get there. But yeah, the initial convo is typically with the CEO, and I just can kind of tell.
Yeah.
I mean, I want to hear a good story about their business, and really see if they have that purpose and if they're driving towards that.
Yeah.
They're more just general questions to get me to where I need to be to make a decision. I have a pretty decent intuition, and so I can kind of just gauge. And some of the questions they're different according to what type of business it is.
That's true, yeah.
So like a SaaS business, for sure, I'm going to ask, what's their ARR? We'll do the customer acquisition. What does your churn look like? But that's going to be different, say, for a company that's like I'm helping out my mom's. She has an interior designer for this house. She's just lovely, and I'm doing her financial model for her.
Yeah.
Because she's helping out my mom. So like her business, totally different, right?
Yeah.
Right. So it will kind of differ, but I think for me, I really want to gauge like how organized is this person and or really their data, because it's really tough when there is no single source of truth and the data is just all over the place. Or this system, like one metric, this system, X says it's this, system Y says it's this, system Z says it's this, and it's different.
It's just a mess, yeah.
Because, it's just a mess, and it's a huge time suck. And sure, I want to help, but I also need to set expectations.
Right.
Because it's going to be a lot more hours, a lot more of my time, and it's going to be more expensive than it would that you have, a really strong base infrastructure.
Yeah.
That's good.
Do you find do you have any tips for a small business, using potentially AI to help them at least maybe organize a little bit more, right? Those of they maybe not be able to afford your or honestly even anybody's services.
Sure.
They're just starting out. They know they want to be organized, but they're like, I at least need something to help me. Like, what resources do you think that they can look up?
So I love AI. I use ChatGPT daily just to really help with some of the like admin type tasks. So, I mean, I'd recommend taking there's a lot of free courses out there, right? On how to use ChatGPT for your business. So I recommend something like that because it really can remove, a lot of tasks that are administrative in nature and that really are a time suck.
For sure.
I think that's really helpful.
Oh.
And be computer. I don't want to say computer literate. It's not the right word,
Well,
but
I would say
helps
like
you.
gathering a lot of information and
Yep.
trying to like organize it.
Yep.
Like I know I took all of our, I took our bank statements and was like, hey, identify some trends for me.
Yep.
And I bumped it up against what our accountant had, right? And I was like, okay, that seems a little bit off. And that's why you tell people double check your data.
Yes.
And it was like, oh, you're right. I need to eliminate these duplicates.
For sure.
But once it dialed in, it was cool. 'Cause then it was
100%.
like, where can I be more strategic with our company
100%.
based off our financial
That
model?
was a great way to do it, is to match to what your accountant said, because AI will get it wrong a lot.
Oh, yeah.
And exactly like you said, you need to train it.
Yeah.
You need to train it. Like I will have AI, write emails
Yeah.
for me, not to my clients, but maybe like for potential clients, for like prospecting, but I'm rereading them.
For sure.
It's just to get the juices flowing. That's what I tell my people. Yeah.
That's exactly right. It's great to give, like, I'll get a lot of ideas for blog posts,
Yeah.
right? Things of that nature. It's just a great resource.
Yeah.
I've really replaced like my Google search with my ChatGTP.
And that's a whole nother topic.
Yeah. Well, it's just saves so much time, and you don't have to go through all the ads or sift through
Yep.
Google, right, to find the answer that you originally asked. And I love the follow-up questions too.
Yes.
Like, hey, I can dig
thought
into
about
this or that in more detail. And it's really cool. I just was showing my mom how to use it. I said, you should stop using Google. And I downloaded it onto her phone, and she loved it.
Yeah.
So
it sounds like
it's a good resource.
Safe to say that you're a fan of AI.
Yes.
Right? And so there's a lot of people specifically in the financial industry or have that background, such as yourself, that are against integrating AI. So from your perspective, next 3 to 5 years, how do you see AI impacting the financial industry, but then also for folks that have businesses similar to yours? How do you see it impacting the next 3 to 5 years?
So I think if you are going to be left behind if you are not well versed in AI. I think what it's going to do is take away, just like the lower level type tasks. Like you're going to need a human in the loop, right, to review everything. But I do think it's going to take away a lot of work for kind of lower level analysts, lower level accountants, as we see it become more and more integrated into our workflows. Right. So I see it as being really integrated into my workflows as it is already now. You can have your AI agents. I think it's going to be particularly valuable to like solopreneurs, because you could set up your marketing agent.
Yeah, you were talking
your
to
sales agent
earlier. She had messaged and said, "Hey, I'm in the lobby," and it was like, "Oh, please stand by. One of our team members will come grab you." Yeah. And we just set that up, so I was actually really happy with that.
It was great.
We're like testing it right now.
Well, you know what was interesting? I didn't think it was AI, because I'm like,
That's good.
It was really good. And the reason why
shout out Charles.
The reason why I thought about it just in general, because a lot of people are using it, and I like to say, oh, this is a great message. I was curious if it was, because it was very like human.
Yeah.
Like
Got you.
and font. Yeah, it was good.
go.
It was a good one. But see, for things like that, it just saves so much time. I could even use it now. Like, okay, I want to do something in Excel. And so I say, okay, here's I put in dummy data. Could never want to share any proprietary info, but I'll say, hey, this is what I have in cell A1, and I want to do X, Y, Z. And then it just spits out the formula, copy, paste, for some of the really complex formulas. So I think like ChatGTP, that generative AI, it's not the best like with modeling, but it can help with pieces of it,
Right.
right? And I just get good ideas from it. You know, it's just like a resource for me as well, like for research. I love the deep research function.
I will say
as well.
I built a very elaborate capacity Excel model using ChatGPT. Like after I put our financials in there, I started going, and it was like, do you want me to create like an Excel document so you can like do pricing and stuff, right? And I mean, I spent probably a good 3 or 4 hours messing with it, but I got a legitimate working like 10 tab model where
that's awesome.
You know, whether it's outside the studio videography services, it'll tell me this is the recommended price for you to keep 60% overhead.
That's great.
You know, for manning and capacity, it's like, hey, once you've sold these many packages and you're producing this many podcasts per week, it's time for you to find another editor. You know, this is what the capacity is. You know, once you're at 80%, we'll mark this cell red to let you know to now find a part-time additional. And I'm like, man,
it's great. I mean, there's just so much. It's just so powerful.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I've barely scratched the surface
for sure.
But it's been really helpful. I have a couple like groups on LinkedIn. You know, one is like AI for finance. So I find like helpful, like, you know, tips and things like that. And I'm sure, so, you know, back to your question for the small business owner, I'm sure like LinkedIn's a great resource.
It is.
And so I think
it gets forgot about way too much just because it's like, oh, I'm not looking for a job. And it's like, dude, it is so,
it's
I
very
COVID,
it's very robust now. So maybe, you know, if I was a business owner and my budget's really tight, just trying to seek out those free resources, go into ChatGPT and ask, what are what are free resources that will, you know, enable me to understand how I can implement AI, you know, more in my business workflows.
Definitely.
That's good.
You know, or even specify the type of industry that you're in as a small business. It's just really, really helpful. And there is a ton of free resources. There are a ton of free resources
that's
out
good.
there.
For sure.
Yeah, I think for you, and thank you for those tips too. I mean, obviously free courses, obviously utilizing AI or ChatGPT if you don't even know where to start, such as like, hey, I don't know where to start. I'm a small business owner. You know, I'm looking for 10 or 5 free online courses. I think that's good because oftentimes, you know, and often hear Cam mention this as far as like the access to the information is not the challenge. It's the execution.
Exactly.
And the digestion.
Yeah, and the digestion. Yeah, because I mean, especially you can, when you're going into ChatGPT, you can get overloaded with information.
Totally.
The more and more you go down that rabbit hole, I found myself.
I've been there.
Yeah, absolutely. But I do want to ask. So you have again a unique background as far as like you have HR experience, you have financial experience. So when you're sitting down with companies, what are some of the things that you've learned having that experience in those two fields, such as skill sets, where it allows you to add even more value to, you know, that company, that founder, that CEO, and their team?
Sure. I think I kind of look at it just, you know, holistically, because I've been in these different roles, and in particular the chief administrative officer role, you know, after my the startup I co-founded merged, where I'm really interfacing with all of these different departments, like with legal, with HR, with ops, with product. So it's enabled me to really kind of speak the same language. And so I think that, you know, I'm relatable, and that really helps build trust with the client. Because I've done it, you know, I'm not BSing. Like I've actually done it and I've seen it. And so again, it goes back to, you know, that's where I can add value.
Nice.
I find a lot of finance CFOs, my mom especially too, like you guys always get kind of pulled into like these duality roles. I feel like most finance CFOs, accounting people, like always end up dabbling in HR as they've come up, right? Like as they, you know, usually at a higher level, they've now like, no, I'm doing finance.
Yes,
like, I'm doing numbers. But at some point as they're rising in the ranks, there's like, oh, well, could you just like, you know, handle this program or that program, you know?
It's true. It's really interesting. I've talked to other CFOs, and we would laugh, like, how does a CFO become like responsible for HR? Because I had my CFO and head of HR since like 2008 all the way through to 2021.
There you go. 13 years.
Yeah, and I mean, it's HR's not really my forte, but I learned, and there's a lot there, and you need to be very conscientious. Like, it's very serious stuff, and it's almost too much, right? To have,
especially in California.
Oh my goodness.
He's told me we've
my
had
goodness.
discussions is like
Yes.
just the amount of regulation there is.
Yes, and it's serious, right? And if you have that role, you're the guardian of the company from a legal type standpoint, right?
Yeah.
And so I think, it's interesting. So I've laughed, with other CFOs because they've had this similar thing. But I think maybe because like payroll, kind of rolls up to finance, but it's a whole different ball of wax. I mean, I honestly don't see kind of the
correlation.
Yeah, I really don't. I mean, I'm good with people, so it worked, but I just needed to really like educate myself. And there were times like where the HR component took up much more of my time than the finance. But finance is really where I want to be. But it's helpful, like I said, when
you have the experience.
Speaking with prospects and clients.
Yeah, I would say in my experience of working with a few executive directors that have HR managers and finance managers, and kind of seeing some of that, like one of the characteristics with the finance individual, obviously you're dealing with people while also dealing with payroll, and it's almost like a gift and a curse if you're good with connecting with people.
Yes,
right. Which generally, as HR, right, is important to have that skill set because essentially you're the heartbeat of that business or organization. And so what I've seen is generally folks that have financial backgrounds, if they have one of the skill sets of the ability to connect with people, those sometimes that extra task gets put on their plate, and then it ends up piling up to where you have half of the HR functions because of your skill set, just because the payroll was the thing that intertwined. And now you're doing all these other things.
Exactly. I remember asking my boss at the time, like when she told me she wanted me to take over HR, and I asked, why, and she said because I was really good with people and just really, really organized and detail oriented. Right. And I think, I mean, you need to be organized and detail oriented with the HR as well. But I think it was those skills, and then the person that had the role before me didn't have those. And so it just kind of...
it works. It's a win-win.
Product of your success.
Yes. So, no, it's helpful. I like, again, building trust is so important in an organization. And so it's only helped me to do that. Right, to be better.
I want to ask this question because Cam and I, help a lot of businesses, and so one of the things you had mentioned, like building trust in an organization or in a business, is important. Why do you say that? Why do you, and from your experience, from your lens, like why is trust important in a business organization?
Because you have to be able to trust each other in order to be aligned with the mission, with the vision, with the strategy. And I mean, it needs to be a well-oiled machine. And that's kind of the glue that holds it together, is trusting each other.
Right. It's interesting how small but important that
it's
one thing
huge.
Is. I remember years back reading the book, The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, right? And it talks about, lack of trust. And when you introduce that to the team or the organization or the C-suite of like, this is why all of this is failing, right? And needing to focus on those principles, they often overlook that one key area of this is what we need to work on.
It's just huge. It's like a lot of companies, they're so focused on tracking revenue, but they forget about relationships.
Yeah.
They're focused on, speed, but they lost the purpose, right?
Yeah.
And so,
Or the quality.
exactly. And so trust is really the undercurrent. And, I think you build that by, being reliable, being consistent. You do what you say you're going to do.
Right.
And no quitting.
Yeah.
Lead by example, all those things. And I know like some it's, kind of cliche, but it really matters. I mean, I've just seen in organizations, because again, I've worked in all sizes, and if that trust component's not there, it's just not healthy.
Yeah.
And you spend a lot of time at work, you want you want to have a good environment.
So working with different sizes of organizations, what are one or two things that you will say if you're speaking to, those founders or business owners or CEOs? What would you say are one or two things that consistently you see or have seen in your experience that works for businesses?
So I think, again, having those core values, like I think every company should have a list of core values. I think it's really important. I always respect companies where I see that, and they talk about it, right? But you want to have it written down,
right,
and you want folks to have a copy of that. And I think, not so much focusing on the short term. Like, again, I think it's really that legacy that you leave behind as a business. That's what people are going to remember, right? Again, it's not about just the tracking revenue. It's the building relationships, leading with courage, integrity, inspiring people. I mean, that's what people are really going to remember. And I think that is going to propel you in your success as a company.
I love it.
Yeah.
You have any other questions?
Nope.
I have one last
Nope.
question
I know you
that
got
I
your
want to
last
ask. All right. Heather Hall. The question that I have for you as we gear up to close out is there are 3 words: life, love, and leadership. If you can choose one of those 3 words and then just share whatever is on your heart.
Sure. I would say leadership right now. Again, just hearkening back to the story about my dad, and just really his legacy has just made me who I am today, and really has inspired me to become the leader that I am. And it just feels good to, be a mentor, impart those values, just being a real leader. So that's, especially during, it was just Thanksgiving yesterday. So I'm just giving a lot of thanks, really happy, my mom's moving up here, but just been thinking about my dad a lot, always around the holidays.
Yeah.
And so the leadership has just really kind of been at the forefront for me.
No, that's awesome. That is awesome. I will say, Heather, it has been such a pleasure. I mean, again, founder, CEO, your business, Sapphire, CFO Solutions, to you speaking on legacy, to you speaking on values and trust, and these core principles that are extremely important for businesses, for individuals, especially as leaders. We take our hat off to you for doing what you do, because again, in the beginning, we were talking about the, finances are not often looked at with the level of importance that it should be, and how it could be a roadmap to help you strategize to get you to your next level, whatever that is. And so, anyway, just on behalf of my team, I just want to say thank you.
Thank you.
How can folks connect with you, or what are some final thoughts, or do you have any projects that you're working on or events? And then I'm gonna toss over to Cam.
Sure. So best way to get a hold of me is on LinkedIn.
Okay.
So my company has a page, Sapphire CFO Solutions. I'm also on LinkedIn personally, and it's Heather Hall CPA. It's the LinkedIn in Heather Hall CPA. And then also my website, which is sapphirecfosolutions.com. So there's a way to connect with me there.
Love it.
Oh,
Cam?
all right.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
Thank you so
Absolutely.
much.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
I was late to our meeting when we first met. We were, so I'm glad. Thank you for graciously forgiving that, but also still coming and everything. It was great. And so, with that being said, y'all, like, love, share, subscribe. Tell us what you like. Tell us what you don't like, and we'll see you guys later.
Heather Hall.
Peace.